So, in a nutshell, bearing simply means, or rather, bearing is just a means of we trying to locate. So, we're just trying to locate an object. This object can be a person or whatever. So, we're locating an object from a point, of reference. So it's very important to note this. So it's not as though we just want to locate an object from anywhere. We are going to locate a particular object, but coming from a point of reference. Now, let me say that I'm at the point A. All right. So if I go in this direction, kind of upwards, we call that side the north. So that's the north direction. If you go towards the right, that's the easterly direction. That's east. If you go downwards, vertically downwards, that would be the south. All right. Then if you go horizontally left, that would be the west direction. So we say you're going the westerly direction. Now this is the bearing. So if we go from the north to the east, the angle we've turned is an angle of 90 degrees. So we've turned an angle of 90 degrees. So you should know that all these cardinal points, these are called the major cardinal points. So these are the major directions you can take. The north is 90 degrees to the east. So if you go from the east again, clockwise again to the south, that's another 90 degrees. But in total, from the north, from 0 to south, you see that would be 180 degrees. So between the south and the west is another 90 degrees. If you add the 90, you see we have 270 degrees. And then if you go back to the north from the west, you have another 90 degrees, which will be 360 degrees. So you've gone a complete turn. So you see that between all the major cardinal points is 90 degrees. And you also notice that at the north, 360 degrees and 0 degrees are coinciding at the north. So if you call that 0 degree, if you call that 360 degrees, it's still the same thing. Okay. Now, you might also decide to go not exactly north, not exactly south. So you just want to go exactly in between the north and the south. Let's say decide to go in the northeast direction. All right, so you decide to go like this, the northeast direction. So remember, this is the north, this is the east, this is the south, and this is the west. So if you decide to go in this direction, northeast, and let's say that you're going exactly in between the north and the east, all right, so the angle would be also half 90 degrees since northeast is 90. So if you're just going exactly in between, that means you're going 45 degrees, and that's true for all the cardinal points. If you go exactly halfway between all the major cardinal points, the angle that will be turned is 45 degrees since the total angle is 90. So if you go halfway, that means half of 90, which is 45 degrees. So anytime you're asked that the bearing of something is, or rather anytime you're told the bearing of something is maybe northeast, southwest, or whatever, just know that the angle that is turned is 45 degrees. So if we go in this direction, southwest, the angle that has been turned will be what? 45 degrees. So this will be the southwest. So from the south, we've turned 45 degrees. So that's the same thing for the northeast and the southeast, except they give you another angle, because you can also go, you must not go exactly halfway. Let's say we are going between the southeast rather, but we're not going exactly halfway between the south. Let's say we are going at an angle of 60 degrees from the, or rather, let me say 30. So this will also be southeast, but now it's not exactly in between the southeast. That's why the angle there is 30 degrees. So that's what you should know. Okay, so this is our cardinal point. So what if we are given a question like this, that the bearing of P from A is say 30 degrees. Let's say let's call this place A. Anytime you see a question of bearing, be careful with this word from. That's the most important one you should pay attention to. So we're saying that how to get to P coming from A. All right, that's how to make it make sense. So how to get to P coming from A. So you need to say, okay, we're at A now, 30 degrees. So what we simply means that from the north, we should turn 30 degrees, and then we are going to get to P. We'll get to P if we go 30 degrees. So that's what this thing implies. So we have turned an angle of 30 degrees. So we are expected to get to what? P. So this is what it means. This is the graphical illustration of the bearing of P from A is 30 degrees. So saying from the north A, turn 30 degrees, you're going to get to P. Okay, what if we said the bearing of P from A is no longer 30 degrees? Now what if we say that it is 70 degrees, for instance, or rather, let me not use 70. Okay, let me use 170 degrees. So when the bearing of P from A is 170 degrees, remember we're still at A. We're still at A now. But then, recall that from the north to east is 90 degrees, from east to south is 180. So 70 degrees should be, in the southeast direction. Something like this. So that's what we have there. Remember, from the north now, we have turned to this green line, 170 degrees. It's not exactly 180, because if it's 180, we are going to go in exactly in the south direction, but 170. So this is where we are going to locate P if the bearing is 170 degrees. Okay, what if we are told that P is west of A? So if we are told that P is west of A, what that simply means is that we should just go from the west of A. So at A, P is just in the west direction. P is just in the west direction. So that's what it means. So that's what we're going to do. So if we go in that direction, we're going to get to P. So that's what the bearing simply means. So bearing is just a way of locating an object from another point. So you're going to have a reference point where you will now from there take your direction to get to the other one. So in the next part of this video, we're going to now begin to solve problems, kind of problems you're going to see in bearing. We're going to talk about the two types of bearing. We have two methods of describing bearing, and then we solve problems.